Finland is a country located in Northern Europe. Finland is one of the world's most northern and geographically remote countries and is subject to a severe climate. Nearly two-thirds of Finland is blanketed by thick woodlands, making it the most densely forested country in Europe. Finland also forms a symbolic northern border between Western and Eastern Europe, dense wilderness in Russia to the east, the Gulf of Botnia, and Sweden to the west. A part of Sweden from the 12th century until 1809, Finland was then a Russian Grand Duchy until, following the Russian Revolution, the Finns declared independence on December 6, 1917. Finland's area decreased by about 1/10 during the 1940s when it ceded the Petsamo area, which had been a corridor to the ice-free Arctic coast, and a large part of southeastern Karelia to the Soviet Union, ceded portions now in Russia. Throughout the Cold War era, Finland skillfully maintained a neutral political position, although a 1948 treaty with the Soviet Union, terminated in 1991, required Finland to repel any attack on the Soviet Union carried out through Finnish territory by Germany or any of its allies. Since World War II, Finland has steadily increased its trading and cultural relations with other countries. Under a US-Soviet agreement, Finland was admitted to the United Nations in 1955. Since then, Finland has sent representatives to the Nordic Council, which makes suggestions to member countries on the coordination of policies. Finland's international activities became more widely known when the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe, which resulted in the creation of the Helsinki Accords, was held in that city in 1975. Finland has continued to have especially close ties with the other Scandinavian countries, sharing a free labor market and participating in various economic, cultural, and scientific projects. Finland became a full member of the European Union in 1995. The landscape of ubiquitous forests and water has been a primary source of inspiration for Finnish arts and letters. Starting with Finland's national epic, the Kalevala, the country's great artists and architects, including Alvar Aalto, Albert Edelfelt, Akseli Gallen-Kalila, Juha Ilmari Laiviska, and Eero Saarinen, as well as its musicians, writers, and poets, from Jean Sibelius to Väinö Linna, Juhani Aho, Zacharias Topelius and Eino Leino, have all drawn themes and imagery from their national landscape. One of the first modernist poets, Edith Södergran, expressed her relationship to the Finnish environment this way in Homecoming. The notion of nature as the true home of the Finn is expressed again and again in Finnish proverbs and folk wisdom. The harsh climate in the northern part of the country, however, has resulted in the concentration of the population in the southern third of Finland, with about 1/5 of the country's population living in and around Helsinki, Finland's largest city and continental Europe's northernmost capital. Yet, despite the fact that most Finns live in towns and cities, nature, especially the forest, is never far from their minds and hearts. Land. Finland is bordered to the north by Norway, to the east by Russia, to the south by the Gulf of Finland, to the southwest by the Gulf of Botnia, and to the northwest by Sweden. Its area includes the autonomous territory of Åland, an archipelago at the entrance to the Gulf of Botnia. About 1/3 of the territory of Finland, most of the Maakunta region of Lappi, lies north of the Arctic Circle. Relief. Finland is heavily forested and contains some 56,000 lakes, numerous rivers, and extensive areas of marshland. Viewed from the air, Finland looks like an intricate blue and green jigsaw puzzle. Except in the northwest, relief features do not vary greatly, and travelers on the ground or on the water can rarely see beyond the trees in their immediate vicinity. The landscape nevertheless possesses a striking, if sometimes bleak, beauty. Finland's underlying structure is a huge worn-down shield composed of ancient rock, mainly granite, dating from Precambrian time, from about 4 billion to 540 million years ago. The land is low-lying in the southern part of the country and higher in the center and the northeast, while the few mountainous regions are in the extreme northwest, adjacent to Finland's borders with Sweden and Norway. In this area, there are several high peaks, including Mount Halti, which is, at 4,357 feet, 1,328 meters, Finland's highest mountain. The coastline of Finland, some 2,760 miles, 4,600 kilometers, in length, is extremely indented and dotted with thousands of islands. The greatest number of these are to be found in the southwest, in the Turizm, Turku, Abo, archipelago, which merges with the Åland, Ahvenanmaa, islands in the west. The southern islands in the Gulf of Finland are mainly of low elevation, while those lying along the southwest coastline may rise to heights of more than 400 feet, 120 meters. The relief of Finland was greatly affected by the Ice Age glaciation. The retreating continental glacier left the bedrock littered with morainic deposits in formations of eskers, remarkable winding ridges of stratified gravel and sand, running northwest to southeast. One of the biggest formations is the Salpaselkä ridges, 3 parallel ridges running across southern Finland in an arc pattern. The weight of the glaciers, sometimes miles thick, depressed the Earth's crust by many hundreds of feet. As a consequence, areas that have been released from the weight of the ice sheets have risen and continue to rise, and Finland is still emerging from the sea. Indeed, a land rise of some 0.4 inch, 10 millimeters, annually in the narrow part of the Gulf of Botnia is gradually turning the old sea bottom into dry land. Drainage and soils. Finland's inland waters occupy almost 1/10 of the country's total area. There are 10 lakes of more than 100 square miles, 250 square kilometers, in the area and tens of thousands of smaller ones. The largest lake, Saimaa, in the southeast, covers about 1,700 square miles, 4,400 square kilometers. There are many other large lakes near it, including Päijänne and Päijänne, while Oulu is near Kajaani in central Finland, and Inari is in the extreme north. Away from coastal regions, many of Finland's rivers flow into the lakes, which are generally shallow. Only 3 lakes are deeper than about 300 feet, 90 meters. Saimaa itself drains into the much larger Lake Ladoga in Russian territory via the Vuoksa River. Drainage from Finland's eastern uplands is through the lake system of Russian Karelia to the White Sea. In the extreme north, the Pats River and its tributaries drain large areas into the Arctic. On Finland's western coast, a series of rivers flow into the Gulf of Botnia. These include the Tornio, which forms part of Finland's border with Sweden, and the Kemi, which, at 343 miles, 550 kilometers, is Finland's longest river. In the southwest, the Kokmane, one of Finland's largest rivers, flows out past the city of Pori, Björnborg. Other rivers flow southward into the Gulf of Finland. Soils include those of the gravelly type found in the eskers, as well as extensive marine and lake post-glacial deposits in the form of clays and silts, which provide the country's most fertile soils. Almost 1/3 of Finland was once covered by bogs, fens, peatlands, and other swamplands, but many of these have been drained and are now forested. The northern third of Finland still has thick layers of peat, the humus soil of which continues to be reclaimed. In the Åland Islands, the soils are mainly clay and sand. Climate. The part of Finland north of the Arctic Circle suffers extremely severe and prolonged winters. Temperatures can fall as low as -22 degrees Fahrenheit -30 degrees Celsius. In these latitudes, the snow never melts from the north-facing mountain slopes, but in the short summer, Lapland has about 2 months of the midnight sun. From May to July, temperatures can reach as high as 80 degrees Fahrenheit 27 degrees Celsius. Farther south the temperature extremes are slightly less marked, as the Baltic Sea and Gulf Stream warmed airflow from the Atlantic keeps temperatures as much as 10 degrees higher than at similar latitudes in Siberia and Greenland. Winter is the longest season in Finland. North of the Arctic Circle, the polar night lasts for more than 50 days. In southern Finland, the shortest day lasts about 6 hours. Annual precipitation, about 1/3 of which falls as sleet or snow, is about 25 inches, 600 millimeters, in the south and a little less in the north. All Finnish waters are subject to some surface freezing during the winter. Plant and animal life. Much of Finland is dominated by conifers, but in the extreme south, there is a zone of deciduous trees comprising mainly birch, hazel, aspen, maple, elm, linden, and alder. The conifers are mainly pine and spruce. Pine extends to the extreme north, where it can be found among the dwarf Arctic birch and pygmy willow. Lichens become increasingly common and varied in kind toward the north. In autumn, the woods are rich in edible fungi. More than 1,000 species of flowering plants have been recorded. The sphagnum swamps, which are widespread in the northern tundra or bogland area, yield harvests of cloudberries, as well as plagues of mosquitoes. Finland is relatively rich in wildlife. Seabirds, such as the black-backed gull and the Arctic tern, nest in great numbers on the coastal islands. Waterfowl, such as the black and white velvet scoter duck, nest on inland lakes. Other birds include the Siberian jay, the pied wagtail, and, in the north, the eagle. Many birds migrate southward in winter. Finland is the breeding site for many waters and wading birds, including the majority of the world's goldeneyes and broad-billed sandpipers, Lamicula falcinellis. Native woodland animals include bears, elk, wolves, wolverines, lynx, and Finnish elk. Wild reindeer have almost disappeared. Those remaining in the north are domesticated. Salmon, trout, and the much-esteemed sika, whitefish, are relatively abundant in the northern rivers. Baltic herring is the most common sea fish, while crayfish can be caught during the brief summer season. Pike, char, and perch are also found. The vegetation and wildlife of the Åland Islands are much like that of coastal southern Finland. People of Finland. Ethnic groups. Excavations undertaken in 1996 have led to a radical reconsideration of how long people have inhabited Finland. Finds in a cave near Kristianstad in the southwestern part of the country have led some to suggest that habitation of Finland goes back at least 100,000 years. Ancestors of the Sami apparently were present in Finland by about 7,000 BCE. As other groups began to enter Finland some 3,000 years later, the Proto-Sami probably retreated northward. Archaeological remains suggest that this second wave of settlers came from or had contact with what was to become Russia and also Scandinavia and Central Europe. Peoples of Uralic, specifically Finno-Ugric, stock-dominated 2 settlement areas. Those who entered southwestern Finland across the Gulf of Finland were the ancestors of the Hämäläiset, Tavastians, or Tavastlanders, the people of southern and western Finland, especially the historic region of Heim. Those who entered from the southeast were the Karelians. Scandinavian peoples occupied the western coast and archipelagos and the Åland Islands. Roughly half of Finland's small Sami population lives in the area known as the Sami homeland, Samiedruoftagwavlu, which consists of the northernmost portion of the region of Lappi. In 1995, the Finnish constitution was amended to recognize the status of the Sami as an indigenous people and their right to maintain and develop their own language and culture. See also Finnic peoples. Thank you for watching.